Here's a Google slide presentation that you can use with students as a collaborative activity where multiple students will work on the same slide presentation. This is called an Iron Chef activity. It is similar to if you've ever done a jigsaw activity where each student is in charge of one specific thing that they're learning about or a concept that they need to explore, and then they put all the information together and share it with the rest of their group. So this is a similar activity, but it's done digitally. So in this case, on this first page, this is just an image that we created as a background, okay? If you go to the second page, this is more for teachers. So if you do utilize this specific slide presentation, just make sure you delete the slide when you share it with students. This just gives you a little description of the Iron Chef activity, which again we said is collaborative. Most often we want students to work in groups of 4, but again, if you have, let's say, 3 kids, then you can just have 3 slides. And then what happens is each student is in charge of one of the slides to create. This is a slide for students, directions for them in terms of the content, the information that they need to get. So notice a couple of things. We have added an example so that way students can see exactly what we want them, or similar to what we want them to create. So here's an example that they can see, and in terms of specifically not even what it looks like, but the content we want them to put in here. And so this is picking one of the gods, and then you can go through and see the different pieces. The duties would be one student filling out, another student would be filling out the symbolism, one student would be researching and filling out information about family. If you go back to the original presentation, on top of the example, we've given actually information for students for the activity itself, right? So in this case, we want students to choose a god or a goddess, and we have the choices. The students will conduct research. A lot of times, students, when you say just, hey, go research something, it's really hard for students to pinpoint and look at specific websites, right? So they'll Google it, and then they might access websites that you don't want them to look at. So what we've done is we've added a website that they can go to, or we want them to go to, so they can get the more information about their god. You could add multiple websites on the page, but giving students more guided opportunities, especially in the beginning, if this is their first time or second time researching information, is definitely very helpful. This slide is important to keep for students so they can have the directions. Then you could see these next slides, 4, 5, and on, are all the same other than the topic that's being researched. So what happens again is one student is assigned duties. So whatever god they decide as a team that they're going to research on the slide, student will add a symbol, they will add an image of the god, they would put the information that they've learned about the duties of this god. A second student would again be doing the research of the same god, but in this case they're going to look at the mythology behind it, and they're going to again research the information and type it right in here where it says your text. And then if you go through the slides, you notice the only thing that changed is the title, or what specifically that the student is researching. Also, it's good to have student put their name on the slide so the teacher knows which slide that the student's working on. They could even put it in the speaker notes if they'd like.